Well, hello there and welcome to amazing Melbourne. Wow, the Victorian capital has turned on quite the autumn day for us. It is looking absolutely stunning. If you're planning a visit to Melbourne, we have 10 great things for you to do in this video. And stay with us for details of a giveaway, a $200 travel voucher that can be put towards any of the tours and experiences available on our website. It's all coming up. Welcome to Melbourne. Basking beside Port Phillip Bay, close to the southernmost point of the Aussie mainland, this is without doubt one of the country's most dynamic travel destinations. Fine food, awesome coffee, a robust arts and cultural scene, a rich history to explore, and great shopping are all part of the Melbourne package. In this video, we'll circle the city on the number 35 tourist tram. Pound the pavement in the famous Laneways and Arcades that crisscross the CBD. Get on the trail of rare books and bearded bushrangers at the State Library Victoria. Go behind the scenes at the epic Melbourne Cricket Ground. Buckle up for some serious outlet retail therapy. Feed our inner gourmet on the Foodies Bucket List Tour. And much more. The clocks are ticking, so let's get this party started. But first, take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more amazing travel ideas. Now, I love a hotel with a history, and thanks to our good friends at TFE Hotels, we're staying at the incomparable Rendezvous Hotel Melbourne, which overlooks Flinders Street Railway Station, the Yarra River and the South Bank Dining Precinct. The building dates back to the early 1900s and is packed with period character, but no expense has been spared keeping up with 21st century standards. In this hotel, it's not hard to travel back in time to the days of the Commercial Travellers Association, which constructed this former club for its members. It's one of the finest examples of Edwardian Baroque style in Melbourne and remains a bastion of exceptional hospitality. Melbourne's tram network makes getting around the city a breeze, and the best news is that tram travel in the CBD is free of charge. Now, I am a train spotter from way back. I love anything that runs on two tracks, and that includes trams, so I feel right at home here in Melbs. Now, one of the trams that's going to be of the most interest to visitors is the number 35, which does a loop around the city with stops at most of the key attractions. Commentary is provided, which is fantastic. And of course, what I love about it is that the classic W-class trams operate on that route, built between 1920 and roughly 1950. They're absolutely packed with character. Now all I need is one to come along. And hey presto, we're off. More than 750 W-class trams were built here in Melbourne, but today only a small fleet remains in service. Nevertheless, the veteran vehicles continue to play a role in keeping Melbourne on the move and are much loved by Melburnians and visitors alike. Stay on for the full loop or hop off and on as often as you like. Melbourne's network of characterful laneways and arcades are home to popping street art, independent galleries, up-and-coming designers, and cafes and eateries. So pull on your walking shoes and dive in. Just opposite Flinders Street Station, De Grave Street is lined with sidewalk cafes and restaurants and has a very European feel. Cross over Flinders Lane and head down one of the city's most popular and atmospheric laneways, Centre Place, which hosts an eclectic assortment of casual eateries. This is pure Melbourne. Continue on to Collins Street and dial up some 19th century glamour in the Block Arcade. Now, Melbourne loves its chocolate almost as much as its coffee, and these lanes and arcades are dotted with boutique chocolatiers. One of the most popular can be found in the charming Royal Arcade. We caught up with Amanda at Chocoholic Tours to find out more about this arcade and its sweetest store.
The Royal Arcade is the oldest arcade in Melbourne. The architecture in here is absolutely beautiful and it's been around since the late 1800s. It was originally sold for £20 English, which I think is amazing. It's obviously worth an awful lot more than that now. And of course, one of the beautiful things in the Royal Arcade is Cocoa Blacks, which is just behind us. And Cocoa Blacks is a Melbourne-based chocolate company. This particular store here is their flagship store. They've got 5 others across Melbourne. The thing that I love about this Cocoa Blacks, because it's the original one, it's got all of that beautiful European styling, all of the dark woods and all of the architecture inside, give it that lovely European feel.
Cross over Swanston Street and head up Flinders Lane. It will bring you to Hosier Lane, an ever-evolving street art gallery that's probably the most Instagrammed spot in Melbourne. Continue on to AC/DC Lane, yes, named after the legendary band. You'll see more incredible street art, including a sculpture of Bon Scott bursting out of a brick wall. Also keep an eye out for the Banksy around the corner in Duckboard Place. If you really want to get under the skin of the city's street art scene, Melbourne Street Tours offers a 3-hour walking tour with a working artist. Now, as you explore Melbourne's laneways and arcades, remember to look up from time to time because you're going to spot an amazing array of Art Deco architecture. Now, Melbourne built Art Deco from roughly 1929 through to 1935, so it's quite a short window, but it was coming off the back of the Great Depression. There was a renewed sense of optimism in the city, and one of the best loved examples today is the Manchester Unity building, and I know just the man to tell me all about it.
Manchester Unity were one of the very first financial institutions in Melbourne to realise that the crash on Wall Street, 1929, was over, and they saw an investment opportunity, capitalising on the fact that there was cheap labour, cheap building supplies, and they put up this beautiful building in 15 months, working around the clock, 3 shifts of 8 hours each. Wanted to give as much work as they could to as many people, and incorporated in it as many of the modern designs as possible. Melbourne's first telephone exchange, for example, Melbourne's first escalator, which they called the Magic Stairway. They were trying to encourage people that the financial woes of the world were easing up. There are lovely friezes all around showing people working. It was kind of a psychological thing, you get back to work, because they relied on people who were working, investing their money with them. It was the tallest building in Melbourne at the time it was constructed, and it hasn't lost any of its charm.
Now, Melbourne offers visitors an almost unending list of museums and galleries to choose from. You've got, of course, the very prestigious National Gallery of Victoria, the Melbourne Museum, the Royal Exhibition Building, the Immigration Museum, and the list goes on. I'm visiting the State Library of Victoria, which combines history and culture under one very historic roof.
The library was first opened in 1856, so it's really the oldest public library in Australia. It's been built over many, many years, and it has something like 23 buildings which have been finally stitched together on a full city block. That's part of Melbourne's great history. It was a wealthy colony back in the 1850s, and it set up some magnificent institutions, and we still have those around today. I guess the greatest highlight is to come into what's behind us here, which is the great Dome Reading Room, which was built in 1913. And I think the library's founder, Edmund Barry, once spoke of the library as a great emporium of ideas. And if you just look down at the people studying and reading, you can really kind of sense that in action. It's based on Bentham's panopticon, which was a kind of prison system, and it allowed the staff member who sat in the middle to turn and see every single reader at once. And that was back in the glorious days. There was someone still there to the 80s, and they would shh the reader if anyone made too much noise.
Do you get a lot of shushing these days?
No.
For a first-time visitor to Melbourne, what sort of things can they do here?
Well, one of the great things is just to wander through the building, you know, the beautiful N. Potter Queen's Hall, which was the original library in the 1850s, but my favourite is the World of the Book exhibition, which we're standing in now. And it's an ongoing permanent exhibition that we change every 12 months, and it has about 300 rare and kind of incredible kind of books on display, from medieval manuscripts right through to contemporary artist books. And it's always on, it's always here, and it's an absolute magnificent space to wander around and really kind of commune with these incredible books. Lots of tourists from around the world come in just to see Ned's armour, and it's quite extraordinary to look at this piece of metal, this iconic piece of Australian history that tells 1,000 stories.
Tell me about the children's area.
Well, that's one of the new spaces, the Pauline Gandel Children's Quarter, and that's just a fabulous space. It's purpose-built for kids. It's a space where children come along with their families. It's a space they can enjoy, they can read books, but more importantly, they can learn.
Time for a change of pace and a leisurely cruise on the Yarra River with Melbourne River Cruises. The Yarra rises on Mount Baw in the Yarra Ranges National Park before flowing almost 250 kilometres to Port Phillip Bay. It cuts a path straight through the city and offers a unique perspective of the CBD. We're doing the 1-hour River Gardens cruise, which travels upriver to the suburb of South Yarra before returning to the city.
Wow, the mighty Melbourne Cricket Ground. You know, the MCG is so much more than just a sporting venue, a world famous one at that. It's really part of the history and culture of this city. Stories like during World War II, when the ground and Yarra Park were home to more than 200,000 service personnel. Just amazing. And it's stories like that that you're going to hear on the behind the scenes tour with the Melbourne Cricket Club.
I'm one of the tour guides from the MCG. There's some 200 to 300 tour guides, and there's also people in the Sports Museum that volunteer to take people around the ground. Melbourne Cricket Club was formed in 1838. That's just 3 years after the first white settlers came to the Port Phillip area, which is now Melbourne. Football didn't start for another 20 years, but the Melbourne Cricket Club moved to this site in 1853. 1956 obviously was a very big event here, and that was the Olympic Games, the first Olympic Games to be held in the Southern Hemisphere. And that had a big building program for the MCG. But things have advanced, of course, and by the time we had the Commonwealth Games here in 2006, well, almost 2/3 of this side of the ground was rebuilt in preparation for the Games. Well, we spent about an hour on the tour. We start out the front looking at the ground, but then we make our way down to ground level, and then they get right onto the artificial surface around the ground. They can't put their foot on the sacred turf. but they're right down at ground level. We go into the change rooms, then we make our way up to the 4th level where you get a different perspective of the ground. We have a look at the skyline of Melbourne, and we just explain why Melbourne is the sports capital of the world. When we've got a stadium like this, 15 minutes from the heart of the city, Marvel Stadium at the other end of town, about the same distance. We've got the tennis centre, we've got Amy Park, and it's just quite an impressive site.
Now, for someone who's never been to an AFL match or a cricket match, what's the atmosphere like at the MCG on game day?
Well, particularly when you get the capacity crowd of 100,000, it's just buzzing. And when something happens on the ground, and look, there's been some big occasions, Shane Warne getting his hat-trick, taking his 700th wicket, the crowd just erupts. And that noise, you hear it all over the ground and away from the ground for a long way.
Now, you mentioned the great Shane Warne. Just give me a sense of how have people responded to the renaming of the Great Southern Stand?
I think people have been very positive about it. We've got the Ponsford Stand named after Bill Ponsford, a great cricketer for the Melbourne Cricket Club and Australia. And the Shane Warne one fits in well.
Having seen the city from ground level, it's time to get a bird's eye view. Head for Melbourne Skydeck, which is located on level 88 of the Eureka Tower in South Bank. This is the highest observation deck in the Southern Hemisphere. And while the weather wasn't all that flash on the day of our visit, the views are nothing short of epic. It seems only fitting to toast the city far below with a beverage from Bar 88. And every cloudy day has a silver lining, a stunning sunset. Now, speaking of drinks with a view, Melbourne's rooftop bar scene is the talk of the town. One of the newest options can be found at the Quincy Hotel, and I've been invited to drop by before opening time for a sneak peek and a cheeky cocktail.
The Melbourne rooftop bar scene is booming. You can expect some incredible bars that are always a little bit harder to find, and also really pushing their own kind of personality. Never shy away from any stairs. There's some of the best bars at the top of them, and as I said, you always get great views and different experiences. So the hotel itself is 29 levels, 241 rooms. The bar is on the 28th level. It's a bar that you do need to be buzzed up to, so it's a bit of a fun kind of style bar. You come in and you see this beautiful elegance everywhere. We are a bit of a Southeast Asian twist, but we also really scream out Melbourne. We've got these beautiful golden arches, we have lovely couches, and then we've also got stools which have some of the best views of the sunsets as well. You can kind of see all out to the mountains there, you can see Port Phillip Bay around the corner, and just loads of new buildings popping up everywhere, and also a lot of beautiful architecture around as well. The Quincy Sling is a bit of a take from the Singapore Sling, so Singapore is where Quincy originated. We have gone a Melbourne twist with this one. We've gone sour cherry, a Melbourne Gin Company gin, along with some Don Benedictine, lime, pineapple, the orange bitters, and obviously garnished with some beautiful dehydrated pineapple and the maraschino cherries, which are to die for and need to be eaten once you've consumed the drink itself.
Shopaholics, Melbourne is your happy place. We're joining Show Me Melbourne on their popular Bargains and Bubbles outlet shopping tour, which ventures where few tourists normally tread. Many of the city's outlets are located on the CBD fringe, and over the course of a day, we visit Port Melbourne, Richmond, Collingwood and Fairfield to browse for cut-price fashion, shoes, sportswear, leather goods and homewares. the bargains all taken care of, our included lunch delivers the bubbles. And that's followed by a chocolate stop and yet more shopping. All in all, savvy shoppers will love this day of retail wrangling. There's thought to be around 1,600 restaurants and cafes in Melbourne. That's a lot of choice when working out where to eat during your stay. This is Melbourne's Foodies Bucket List Tour. Takes away the guesswork, and we caught up with owner-operator Martina to find out more.
Okay, so our Foodies Bucket List Tour is a real nod to immigration. So you're actually going to explore with me a lot of different restaurants that came about, a lot of different cuisines that came about through our mass immigration that happened right through from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and so forth. So our first stop is a chocolate stop, and it's Melbourne chocolate, so we love that. And I'll talk to you a little bit as we go through our tour, but with our chocolate stop, it's all about exploring chocolate, having chocolate, but what they actually do and how they pair it with Australian natives. So you're going to learn a little bit about that today. Our second stop is down Hosier Lane, and so we're actually stopping off at Movida next door. The chef restaurateur is Frank Camorra. So he actually was born in Spain. He came out here when he was 6 years old. After uni, he went travelling, met all his family in Cordova and Barcelona, and that's where his love and his passion for food came from. He actually opened up the first restaurant in a laneway. So in 2003, 2004, he opened up Movida Original. Then, shortly after, he opened up Movida next door. Now he's got another one in Burke Street and also in Lawn. Whilst there's two different restaurants, think about Pinchos food. There's some of that. There's a whole lot of tapas. Very unique in how he differentiates between the two of them as well. But Hosier Lane is pretty much him. He owns Hosier Lane. So we continue up Flinders Lane, and then we have the most amazing Asian fusion, which is at Lucy Lou. Now when we talk about Asian fusion here in Melbourne, Asian fusion generally is made up of about 7 different cuisines, but all our restaurants have a real lean towards one or the other, and it's all about where the chef actually spent most of his time, or the owner spent most of their time. So for Lucy Lou, for example, their lean is more Vietnamese. So whilst you've got a whole lot of Chinese going on, you've got a lot of different things going on, there is actually a real lean towards Vietnamese, which you're going to try today. Then we move up a little bit. We'll walk and weave our way through ACDC Lane. I'm going to talk to you a lot about some new restaurants that have actually popped up. Then we're going to continue across Collins Street and into Myers Place into San Telmo. So San Telmo is an Argentinian restaurant. The owners of San Telmo come from a group that own Pastuzzo, which is our Peruvian restaurant, and 2 other Argentinian restaurants that they have as well. But we love San Telmo. You love where it is. It's absolutely unique. This laneway is really, really special. Then, to finish off, one of my favourites is the Spring Street Cellar, okay? This is Australia's first underground cheese maturation cellar, okay? And I'm going to talk to you later about why Melbourne was chosen to have this cellar here. So you're going to try some Australian cheese. So I hope you're hungry. You'll love it.
For more ideas for amazing things to do in Melbourne, just visit our website.